when I walked in that audition, I knew what I was offering and who I was and why I'm doing this. And then after I got cast as Dimitri, I had a conversation with the director and she told me, you know why you weren't cast that first time and now you were? Because you were more honest and more authentic and you knew what you were doing. You were not nervous. And I think a lot of that is because I know who I am now. I know who I am as a person. I know who I am as an artist. I know what I have to offer. I know what I bring to the table. And having that organized in my head relaxed me and made me be better. Be a better actor and be a better person even.
Today, I am talking to Javier Manente, who is a performer and voice teacher, and he's currently playing the lead role of Dimitri in the Broadway production of Anastasia that's sitting down in Mexico City. Prior to that, he was in Les Miz and Aladdin, both of which were the Broadway productions also sitting down in Mexico City. So I think you can guess the theme here. We're talking about doing Broadway shows outside of Broadway, where you have the same exact production, same creative team, sets, costumes, all of it, but it's just happening outside of Broadway in a different city. And this happens all over the world, like we're going to talk about in today's episode. Plus, we're going to talk about him going from an ensemble member to a lead role and what he needed to shift in his mindset to make that happen. We're also going to hear how he saves time and money gathering content for his social media. And we're going to hear about his philosophy on voice and how he trains his students to be able to use each part of their voice and how to control each part of their voice in a healthy way so they can transform and adapt their voice to sing any kind of vocal style. So we have a lot of ground to cover. First, though, I want to offer you a free gift to thank you for being a follower of the show. It's called Dream Career Blueprint, and it shows you exactly how to construct your dream career based on the advice of countless industry experts. You can download that by clicking the link to it in the show notes. And if you don't want to miss any episodes, hit the subscribe and get notified button so you're the first to know when the next episode is released. And if you want to connect with me outside of this episode, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Jim Cooney NYC. So let's talk now to Javier Manente. Hello, Javier. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, and I appreciate your time coming on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. So excited.
I know. It's great. We were just saying right before we started hit record that we haven't actually seen each other in person, or even though we're not in person, but at least talk face to face for so long now. So I've been looking forward to this and catching up with you.
In so many years.
I know. So I want to kind of start it. Well, first of all, how would you describe yourself as an artist? I think that's always a good place to start. But then I want to go back to the beginning. But currently at this day and age, where we are right now, when you're talking about yourself and what you do, how do you describe that?
I'm a Mexico City-based musical theater actor and voice teacher. I love telling stories on stage and changing people's lives. And as a teacher, I help my students find their unique voice and use it in a healthy way.
Yes, and I see that with all of your social media posts.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
No, that's great because, people do different things and they always have struggles with like, how do I, package that up and say that? So I always think that's a good question to start with so people can hear how other people answer that question. So I first met you in Pittsburgh at Point Park University when you were a student there, but talk to us about how you came from Argentina and how did you get to America and how did you land on Point Park? And then how did that, transition afterwards? Because I know you went back home for a little while, but now you live in Mexico City. So like, give us the whole history of all that.
Well, I was born in Argentina, in a little city. Well, it was little when I was born. Now it's getting bigger. It's called Neuquén. It's at the south of Argentina. Beautiful. I love it. And when I was 18, I went to Point Park University to do the international summer dance program they have every summer. And when I was there, we started jamming with some classmates around the piano and singing and, singing musical theater songs. And one of the girls who was a student at Point Park, she was a freshman. She told me, why don't you audition for Point Park? You're perfect. Your voice is so beautiful. I studied musical theater in Argentina. We don't have performing arts high school where I'm from, but I went to voice lessons and acting classes, and So I knew musical theater before going to Pittsburgh. But when I was in Point Park during summer dance, this student said you should audition for the program. They're holding auditions next week. So I had like 4 days to prepare an audition. I didn't even know that people prepare for months to audition for conservatory and musical theater programs. I had 4 days. I went to the Point Park Library and I photocopied sheet music. I think I sung "This Is the Moment" from Jekyll and Hyde and "What Do You Own" from Rent. Such a bad audition. But I gave it all during the audition. And then a couple days later, they told me that I have been accepted. And the woman from the international students office was chasing me around campus to tell me, fill out this form. We want you in our school. Come to Point Park. And they gave me a scholarship. And then I went back to Argentina. I finished high school because I was 17 at the time. Mm-hmm. And then the year after, I went to Point Park. I started my BFA there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I graduated in 2016. I moved to New York. I worked a couple regional theaters during that year. And then my visa was expiring, and I thought that I had finished the cycle in America and I wanted to like try a different place. So I thought I would go back to Argentina, maybe try TV or musical theater there. And I saw an audition post for Les Miz in Mexico City. And then I sent a video audition, and they asked me to come for an in-person audition. And then they hired me and I moved to Mexico. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah, so you've been like working nonstop in all of the shows there.
Yep.
I think if people haven't been to Mexico City and seen that these are the actual Broadway shows that are sitting down in Mexico City with the same creative teams, the same sets, costumes, like it's literally the same shows. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show today was to talk about this, because I get asked so many times by international students, how do they move here? How do they work here? How do they get on Broadway? Those kinds of things. And I often talk about the cruise ships are doing Broadway shows. Mexico City is doing Broadway shows. One of my friends just set the Phantom of the Opera tour in Asia. So, I mean, like, the shows are over there. Like, there's so many places where these Broadway shows are sitting down and performing that you don't need to be an American to be in them. And one of the things you were telling me before was that you've connected with like Casey Nicola and Cameron McIntosh and all these people through being in all of these shows. So talk to us about that and how that's helped you build all these career relationships with these Broadway people.
Yeah. Broadway was always my dream. And when I was a student at Point Park, and even when I was in New York, Broadway was the goal for me. Like, being a successful musical theater actor meant eventually you'll get to Broadway. You'll do regionals and you do national tours and you get your equity card, and then you go to Broadway and then you succeeded. And that shifted for me when I moved to Mexico and started doing Broadway shows that are not on Broadway. And to me, success now is tell a story with this amazing production. Doesn't matter where they are happening. One of my best friends is now she's playing Vivian in Legally Blonde in Madrid. Australia has Broadway productions of musical theater. Korea, Japan, Mexico City, even Argentina. So Broadway is not the goal anymore, or to me, success is not be on Broadway, but keep working on important pieces of theater. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. But yeah, there's so many options. And being here, like you said, I still connect with people from Broadway choreographers, Broadway directors, even the Anastasia director is from Holland, and she directs so many things in Europe. So it's so good to have that opportunity to network with these people, right?
Yeah. Well, I've always said this
too. Become friends then. So
yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. But I think it's weird because we have these 41 theaters that we call Broadway, yet the same people who work in those shows literally are doing shows all over the world. And sometimes, as in the case with you, doing the exact same production all over the world. So just because it's not located here on the street of Broadway or a Broadway adjacent, right on one of the blocks that cross over Broadway, the same show, the same creative team, same everything is happening on these other places, but yet we don't have the same esteem for it. We don't call it Broadway, even though it literally is the same thing. And so I think that's a very interesting thing with our industry. And I think people's minds are changing about that because not everyone wants to even live in New York. And why limit things to 41 theaters, especially for producers? If they can have these shows running all over the world instead of just one location, it makes them more money. And for the artists who create the show, it brings more exposure to their work. So I think it's just good for everyone.
Yeah.
And to help kind of like change
And
that
it also
stigma.
helps audiences experience a Broadway show.
Right.
People who can't travel to New York City and or afford the travel expenses or the Broadway ticket, that that there is the same quality in other places. We get a lot of fans and audience members after the show. We know when we do stage door and meet the people who went to the show. A lot of people tell us that they saw the show on Broadway and they expected this show to be a little not that quality, and that they were surprised that it is the same Broadway quality in Mexico City in their own language, because we do the shows in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So, their kids can experience it, or like their grandmother with the granddaughter come to see Anastasia, and it's, like the story of the grandma, the granddaughter, that they reunite at the end. And it's having Broadway quality in other parts of the world is important, and it's great for audiences all over the world. You don't have to go to Broadway to experience excellent quality theater.
Right. Well, even just what you said about in the language, because even if you could afford to come to New York or chose to come to New York, if you don't speak English as your native language, or it's not your strongest suit to translate that in your head as you're watching a show, you don't need to do that. You can just enjoy it as if someone in New York is going to enjoy the show. And so that's great. I love that.
Right.
So you, with all your performing, because you are constantly in a show. I mean, as soon as you closed Aladdin, you moved right into this. So like
different show. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you have time to do your voice studio? Because you're so active there as well.
Well, here in Mexico City, we don't do 8 shows a week.
Okay.
We are doing 7 shows a week. So we run Wednesday through Sunday. We have 2 show days on Saturday and Sunday, back to back. And then, so I have Monday and Tuesday off. Mondays, usually I rest. That's my day off, where I can hang out with my dog and go have some lunch with friends and, run errands, do my laundry. I don't know. So Monday is my day off. And then Tuesday I teach, but I also teach Wednesday and Thursdays during the day, because I don't have to be at the theater till like 6:47. So that's how I manage to do that. And I love teaching. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to go teach, or I need to have another job to be an actor and make a living. So that's actually also why I do it.
Yeah. But even when you're in rehearsal, you still have the time, like when you're rehearsing a show?
Usually when I'm rehearsing, I stop the classes. I tell my students, I'm going to be rehearsing for Anastasia. We rehearsed July, and we open on the 3rd of August. So I think like the last week of June and all of July, it was 6 weeks. So I told my students, this 6 weeks, I'm going to be rehearsing.
Right.
So we're going to have a break. I kept one student who's from London. I teach remotely, and we're working on vocal health, solving issues with his vocal health. So I kept him. But then every other student, I said, okay, we're taking a break. And they understand, because they know that I'm a working actor, and they are so happy for me. And then they come to see the show, and and then we continue with the voice lessons after I open the show. So
Yeah.
that's how I balance everything.
Yeah.
But then again, because now I'm playing Dimitri, it's a lead. It's a change for me because I was used to being ensemble, and now I'm a lead. So I'm going to interviews and I'm doing a podcast with this famous radio station, and they want me on this TV show. So I have to move classes around because sometimes, the time where that radio program is happening is also the time of my classes. So they are very open. My students are very open to changing. And I'm also very open if they have something that comes up, like I can't come tomorrow to class because I have a meeting. And so we move it to Thursday. Yeah, sure. No problem. So I'm very flexible.
Yeah.
They're flexible with my schedule too.
Yeah.
So
no, I like that because I think if people do feel like that they would get locked into something, that's good. If it's a two-way street that both people can have that flexibility, then yeah, if it works for both. You talk a lot about the vocal health thing, and I think that's what makes you stand out, at least in my mind, as far as teaching voice, because it's not just like how to sing nice and like how to interpret songs, but like you talk so much, at least in your social media posts, about the health of vocal production and like showing clips of different people singing and what they could be doing differently to improve and sing healthier and all that. How did you learn all this, and how did you like get into like this part of training?
At Point Park University, I met Kim Steinhauer. She's the president of Estel Voice Training, and I started taking Estel lessons with her, and I loved it. It literally changed my life. It changed the way that I approached singing, speaking, and acting even. I understood my voice, finally, what it does, how the parts of my body move. I have a couple of dancer students, so I tell them it's the dance technique, but for the voice. Like we're in the exercises that we do in Estel, it's the demi plies to eventually do a triple pirouette. So it breaks down the vocal instrument. I got my certification. I'm an Estel master trainer now, so I teach some Estel courses and I assist Kim on Estel courses, and that's what I teach. And it's very rooted in vocal health. And we don't have aesthetic bias. So however the student wants to sound, if they want to sing heavy metal, I'm here to help them. If they want to sing opera, I can do that. I don't judge how they want to sound, as long as they are not compromising their vocal health. So I teach them and I help them stay healthy in whatever songs they want to sing or style they want to sing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely people should follow. I'll put your links in the show notes so people can learn more about it, because I've been very fascinated by it, watching the videos and stuff. I think it's really interesting.
It gave me control. To me, it was all about control, knowing what I'm doing. Knowledge is power. I know what I can do with my voice. I know everything I can do with my voice. So now I can pick what to do especially for musical theater actors. One day you're auditioning for Oklahoma, which is a more legit sound. And then you come out of that audition and 2 hours later you have to go on audition for Rent or for a rock musical. So you have to be able to change your style and your sound. And that's what Estel gave me, the ability to achieve and successfully dominate different styles and different voice colors, because I know what I'm doing with my voice. So that's what I teach my students.
Well, yeah. And like you said, with dancing, it's like the more you know your instrument. I mean, when dancers don't study anatomy, they're not going to be as successful as dancers who understand, like, when a teacher is saying to turn out, like, well, it's the ball and socket joint of the hip, and that's where the turnout's coming from, not from your foot or not from your knees, or it's like just knowing your instrument's always going to help you. So I love that you're focusing so much on that. It's really great.
Yep.
So before you were doing all these Broadway shows, even you had this huge social media following. I don't know where that came from. Like I feel like ever since
I was in The Voice. I was in The Voice Mexico
Actually, I knew
edition.
that, and I totally forgot that you did that, but I
Yeah,
knew that
I
about
was in
you.
The Voice. I did it in the pandemics. I was bored, because theaters were closed, and
Yeah.
I, I just wanted to do something. And I always wanted to do a reality show related to talent. So I applied for The Voice and I did it. It was such a fun experience. I didn't win, but that wasn't my goal. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
go out there and like put myself out there and sing. And I got to meet, amazing uh, singers. And apart from the people who were, the team leaders who are famous, I, I networked a lot during the recordings of the show, and I have friends that are still my friends, um, who were competing against me, during the show. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
that gave me a big boost in the social media area.
Yeah.
Um, but
But you're
also,
pretty
what?
Okay. I was gonna say, but I feel like your feed is so curated. Like, it looks like, I mean, when I look at your feed, it matches the number of followers you have. It's like the people that have these big followers, and big accounts. There's a certain type of content. It's very curated and it's professional, and it's consistent with how much you're posting and what you're sharing and stuff. And so, like that, that just doesn't happen. Like, you have to work at that. And so, like, what was your process with growing your social media?
I've always liked like editing pictures and having, a crisp photo. And, most of my friends are actors. So we know that we need to have a very nice looking Instagram and we have to showcase everything we can do, but it doesn't have to feel too pushy. So,
Right.
we're all kind of on the same mindset there. So we help each other taking pictures and choosing outfits and, maybe getting a headshot photographer. It's three friends that we want. Maybe we can get a discount if the three of us go and take pictures. It's community, and we help each other. Which picture should I choose? Which video is the better one? So uh, it's a lot of help from friends. But also, I got an email one day from Amplified Artists saying that you were going to do the social media. Oh, what's it called?
Yeah,
It was,
strategic social media.
yes, that you were gonna uh, see profiles and give feedback,
Mhm.
and that helped me a lot, more than you know.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
it was yeah, it's like I think you talked for 15 minutes about my profile, and you gave some advice, and you said all the things that I was doing right. So I kept doing that, and then you gave me advice, and I took it, and I think it really helped my profile, who was good, to be better.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. But I also think that one of the things that we talk about in the social media training that we have is that it depends on what your goals are. Like, you don't need to have tons of followers. There's people who are very successful that don't even have social media.
Yeah,
So it's not about that. If you do want to grow that, and especially if you want to be like a commercial actor or something where brands want you to have all these followers and things of that nature, sure. But it just depends on what your goals are. And as long as you're making choices aligned with what your goals are, then it's going to be beneficial for you. But I just thought it was fascinating. I totally had forgotten you were on The Voice.
I
But like, your account is so beautiful, I think, and I just love the stuff you share, and especially on The Voice one too. And I can tell you take time and pride and care into it. And so I'm sure that also contributes to why you have so many people engaging with your content. And I love that idea of sharing a photo session with friends, because a lot of times, like, that's, you could do a photo session, you could wear, like, let's say you just wear one thing, but you get like 10 great photos. And then once a month, you just post that no one remembers that you were wearing that same outfit
yeah.
last month. You know what I mean? So, like, just curating like a stock library of content, whatever it may be, videos, quotes that you like to share, thoughts you want to share. I think that's helpful for people that, just collect that, do it one time, with like split the cost with your friends, like you said. And if you can bring a couple outfits, great. But then you have some stuff that you can use.
I also like to add that I interact a lot with my followers, especially now that I'm in the spotlight, being the one of the leads of the show. I get so many messages saying, "Hey, I went to see the show yesterday. Thank you. Or, you were great." And I always try to reply and say thank you,
Yeah.
because it's really fulfilling to me that my performance moved someone, or that they really enjoyed their time that we spent, um, me creating theater with my cast, and they enjoying it. So I always try to um, respond to those messages
Yeah.
and stay in contact with them,
Right.
because that's who I
Well,
am. Because I've
yes.
I always come out of the stage door and take pictures with everyone who wants a picture, because it's fun. I was once that person asking for a picture with Pat Lupone, or
Hmm.
people who I admire. So now
Yeah.
being on the other side feels full circle and very fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, also, social media is social and media, and a lot of people just focus on the media, not the social
And not the
part and
social.
the engagement. And social media platforms, they thrive on the engagement. So if people comment on your, post, then make sure you're replying to them or commenting back on theirs. And again, like if you are trying to grow your following, like that is by engaging with your people. Like it's actually easier that way too, because you can create less content of your own, but then just go engage with other people, and you'll grow that way if that is your goal. So
Yep.
yeah, I love that.
In
Um,
Spanish, social media, it's red social. So it's like social web.
mm,
And I really like that, because it's like everything is linked and connected. And that's what we should use it for, right? Connect with other people. And it's like giving and receiving, and it's a web.
yeah. Well,
So
and I think that was the original intention of it, was to help people connect, and now it's
right.
been used as a weapon and politics and all kinds of things. But I
Right.
think the original thing was, yeah, to connect. And that's like you said with when you were on The Voice, you took the time to network with all these people. So that's for anything that you do, like using that opportunity to keep connecting, because I always say this is a business of relationships, right? And so it's really who you know. And like you said, the director who was the associate for Anastasia now, like now you have that connection, and she still works with that whole Broadway team and sets the tour of the show and all the things. So like it's just going to keep growing your career bigger and bigger. Um, what did you do when you said you networked with all these people? What was your process for that on The Voice?
Well, it's TV, and they record the episodes. So there's a lot of waiting time. And so to kill the time, and to forget about the nerves, and to not be so anxious, I would go and talk to other singers. And I found out, oh, this guy is a singer, but also he does voiceover acting for movies. So, and it just happened to be like that. I didn't know. I just went and say, hi, how are you? I'm Javier. Nice to meet you. And we started talking, and now he's my friend. He came to see the show, and like, I don't know if eventually something will happen there. He told me he's always looking for singers for um, voiceover for movies and series and everything. So that's a good connection to have. And then um, I also met another woman who's also does musical theater, and she invited me to her concert. She did a concert, and she invited me to sing a song with her. Um, and it's all about keep growing and making connections, and eventually things will start to happen, right?
Hmm.
If it's a job, awesome. If it's, do you want to come sing at my concert? Great. Yeah, it's, I'm putting myself out there, and people are, your fans are now going to hear me sing, and maybe they like me. And so they like start following me, and they come see the show, and they want to sing. So, oh, he teaches voice lessons. So I want to take voice lessons from him. So now I have a new student. It's all
Right.
a circle of
Yeah.
actions that happen that start with a hi, my name is Javier. What's yours? Let's talk,
Right.
chat while we wait.
Right. And not trying to get a job, right? I mean, that's the thing. I think if you approach networking like, oh, hopefully this is going to lead to a job, well, that's not going to be an authentic relationship and whatnot. So
Right.
having that, yeah, just saying hello, like you said, and that just starts it. And it might lead to a job, it might not. It might lead to a job 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You
It might
never
lead to a
know.
friendship,
Yeah.
and that's great too. you know?
And that's even better than a job, right?
Yeah.
Having someone there. Yeah. So you sent me this beautiful message after you got cast in Dimitri, because I know that was your goal and that was something you were working on. And I was so moved by the message you sent me where you were thanking me for helping with just having Amplified Artists as a platform. And you said that the Aligning Your Artistry course like changed your life. And so how did you like, what did it change about your life? Like, what did you feel like made the difference for you?
It gave me authenticity. Um, Now what I say I do and what I do match. It's the same
Mm,
thing. Before I didn't even know how to introduce myself. The question that you asked me at the beginning,
hmm
what do you do? How would you introduce yourself? I would just bluff something out like, I'm an actor, but I also teach. Okay, but what do you like? Why? Or, and taking that course helped me organize my thoughts and like actually like find out why I'm doing this, the root. Because I knew I always wanted to like tell stories and like I like being on stage. Um, but it was never for the attention or for the picture for the Instagram and for the followers, or it was never for look at me and how cute I am and how great I can dance and I'm a great ensemble member and I look so great in this costume and I met Casey Nicola. It was never because of that. And the course, the Aligning Your Artistry, helped me realize that it wasn't for that. It was just because I really enjoy telling stories and changing people's lives when they come to the theater. They feel joy. They feel sorry for a character. They feel moved. And theater is such a magic thing that we do, because like all these people in the same place, it's happening right now, right in front of your eyes. It's not a movie, that you hit play and like it's the same every night. It's that's magical to me, and that's why I do it.
hmm And I think that's it, we start because of that. The whole reason why we start doing theater in the beginning is because we love it, and there's something that draws us to it. And then once it becomes a job, it takes on all these other shapes and forms, and we forget about the reason why we're doing that. And um, I think like the whole idea with aligning your artistry is all the things you already do that you are good at doing, that you love to do, and bringing them all together in one channel so you don't feel like you're so discombobulated and doing all these things. Like how you are as a performer is going to affect how you are as a voice teacher, and like what you learned by taking care of your instrument lets you take care of yourself when you are on stage yourself and having to do these things. And so like everything is feeding into each other. And I think when you can actually step back and look at that, and then you can leverage that once you really start to connect the dots for yourself, you can leverage that to move yourself forward, make more money, get the jobs you want to get, and feel more confident. I mean, I think that that's like for people when they go into an audition to have the confidence to just be able to do
Yeah.
their work because they love to do it and not because they're just trying to get a job.
Yeah, exactly. When I walked in that audition, I knew what I was offering and who I was and why I'm doing this. And actually, there's a story here. We had auditions for Anastasia like 3 years ago because it was gonna be done 3 years ago, and then it got shut down. The project got shut down because of the pandemic, and so we had to audition again. And I was cast that 3 years ago as an ensemble member, and Dimitri and Gleb understudy. And then that didn't happen. Pandemic happened, and then they asked us to audition again. They were opening auditions again because so much time had happened and some things changed in the show. So we auditioned again. And then after I got cast as Dimitri, I had a conversation with the director and she told me, why you weren't cast that first time and now you were? Because you were more honest and more authentic and you knew what you were doing. You were not nervous. And I think a lot of that is the course that I took, because I know who I am now. I know who I am as a person. I know who I am as an artist. I know what I have to offer. I know what I bring to the table. And having that organized in my head relaxed me and made me be better, be a better actor and be a better person even.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's what we have to talk about is like how, it's human and artistry. It's like the same thing. It's like they both affect you. So that's amazing. I'm glad that someone actually pointed that out to you because then you can see that you did make that progress. It's not just something you feel, but it's something that everyone else notices. So congrats on that. That's amazing.
thank you. And thank you for having and
Yeah.
creating this community.
Yeah. Thanks. I just felt like there's a place for it in the industry and that people weren't picking up the pieces. So I'm like, I'm just going to put it together myself and connect people like this. And yeah, I think it's all the things no one really teaches us, but yet everyone is saying. I mean, you hear the same directors say the same things about what they want and the choreographers and whatever else, and everyone is saying, these things, but yet all we're taught to focus on is making sure we can act and sing and dance and this stuff, and not like how do we actually be an artist? How do we be a human? How do we build a business like this? And so, um, I wanted to put it together. So I'm glad that and a lot of people like actually say that course is like their favorite one in the whole thing, which is surprising me because I thought people are going to be like, oh, I really like the one about the reels and the website and all that, the things that are more flashy. But this
Those
one
are
really
helpful. They're really helpful, but I feel like this one changes something deeper. It goes
yeah,
deeper and it like makes you actually like question who you are and why you're doing this and why do you want to keep doing this and who you are outside of the stage or outside of
right,
the orchestra
right,
pit or outside of the rehearsal room. If you're a director or a musician or whatever, it makes you think who you are outside of work. Because we
hmm
sometimes and I've done it. My whole personality becomes I'm an actor and I act and I do musicals. So I like and that's all I could talk about and think about and like everything is musical theater. So this one also helped me to like understand that I'm more than that outside of but I'm an artist.
right,
I just,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's why this one
it like
also is.
digs deeper and that's why it like changed something in my core.
That's amazing.
um
Well, if you're not an amplified artist, you maybe don't know this, but there's the game plans that we have that line everything up in order. So you take this training, then this one, then this one. So that's why we start with the aligning your artistry and the branding to book those two first, because those are like, you have to figure that out, like who you are and what you're offering and where you want to work and who you want to work for, because that's going to change the way your website is and your reel and social media. So it is like there's a reason why that is deeper because that's like really the foundation of what you have to figure out.
and
That's
that's how
great.
I uh ended up in the aligning your artistry because I wanted to do social media. I wanted to like get better at posting and like having a schedule and like how do I make better pictures and what do I put in the caption. That's always the question, like what should I caption this.
Right. Yeah.
So I clicked on the grow your social media
Strategic
or
social media. Yeah. Yeah.
strategic social media, and the first thing it says is it's better if you do the aligning your artistry first so you know what your goals are, who you are, and then this one's gonna be way easier. And that's what I did. I said, okay, great. Step one, who are you?
Yep.
Step two, start showing that to the world and like share content that aligns and with who you are and what you're doing, what you
Yeah.
say you are, and
And then you know which
how
pictures to
else.
take. Yeah.
And it's easier to like think of a caption because you know what you're doing. I don't. It's
Yeah.
weird to explain, but now you know who
Yeah.
you are, what you do, and how you want to present yourself in the world and who you want to be.
Yeah. But I also have to say you actually did the work too, because it's like anything. You probably have voice students who just show up. They're not going to get better just by showing up, right? And so
Right.
there are people who join Amplified Arts and they just kind of stay on the periphery and don't ever really do the trainings or come to the events that we have. And then there's other people like you who like dive in, like they go through the things, and it's like, well, you can see the members who are like out there killing it and checking off their career goals because they're actually just doing the work. They're taking the trainings that we have and they're running with it. And I don't make this stuff up. Like that's the thing. It's like I'm not just sitting here like, what's a good way you should do a social media post? Like this is all based on everything that like people in the industry say. I've just compiled it and put it together for people, but it's not me making it up. So
Right.
you just got to do it. And so you should be proud of yourself for that because a lot of people they don't want to put in the work to actually move forward. And so they just would rather, complain about why they're not getting where they want to get. And it's like, well, that's because you keep doing the same things. You have to try something different and learn something new. That's why you're in the place you're in, because you don't know these other things yet. And so let's help you learn those things. It's not hard to do. You just have to know what it is, and then you just do it.
It's sometimes it's hard. I run into this when I was doing that course. It's hard to take the time to just sit and like do the
Yeah.
exercises and actually like question yourself and think. I had in my schedule an hour a week to just sit down, amplified artists, do the work, and it paid off. And it's
Yeah.
1 hour a week. If you invest 2 hours a week, it'll be quicker or it'll be better. So
Yeah.
I know we're so busy in this time of age, running from an audition to a photo shoot to this dinner with this agent maybe. And like, it's so easy to say, I don't have the time, but make the time because it's so worth it.
Right. And like even on the subway, like I tell people, every lesson is broken down. I mean, you could do a 3-minute lesson, a 7-minute lesson. You don't need to sit down and do the whole course in one sitting,
You
but
could
you
even
write it.
download the
Yeah.
workbook
Worksheets.
and
Yeah.
just like do it on the bus.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's design, even the workshops that are like, full on 1.5 hour or 2 hour workshops, even those I go through and break down chapter markers so people can go, piece by piece. So that's a good point. Like you just got to make the time to do it. And as small as increments as you need to make it happen. That's great. One last thing I wanted to ask you, because you brought up the fact of like before you were cast in the ensemble and then you got moved to the lead. And I think that I noticed that there's a lot of people who want to play lead roles, but they're kind of keeping themselves stuck in the ensemble because they're not having the belief and confidence in themselves that they could do that. Like they're not seeing themselves in that position. Did you do anything to change that mindset for yourself, or like what has that been like now that you are playing a lead role in a Broadway show? Like that's huge. So like what is that like now?
You gave me advice during the social media breakdown. Because one of my goals was I want to
Yeah.
break from the ensemble and like become, a
Yeah,
secondary
you told me that.
character or a lead even. And I have a really good relationship with the producers of Les Miz, Aladdin, and Anastasia, who are the biggest producers of theater in Mexico. And you told me, go talk to them. If you have that kind of relationship where you can like, can we go for a coffee and like talk to them? And that's actually what I did. I asked one of the producers if he could meet with me. And I told him, you have seen my auditions, my work, I show up and like I do the work. I would like to start being considered for leading parts. What do I need to do? Do I need to take more acting lessons? Do I need to get better at singing? Do I need to go to the gym more? Do I need to like, what can I do to break from the ensemble? And, he told me a couple of things. He said, it's luck, actually, if the character is for you. But yeah, I think I planted a seed in the producer's head, and then they saw me with different eyes when I went to the audition room. It's just communicate what you want, but also do the work, right? I did take more acting lessons, and I went with an acting coach, who's also my friend, for the Anastasia auditions, and I really worked on the leading man energy, because I was in the ensemble of Aladdin, and I wanted to be a lead in Anastasia. I remember I told you I wanted either Gleb or Dimitri, and I worked on both characters the same, with an acting coach, and I did the work and I talked to the producers, and eventually the decision was from the creative team, right? But I feel like all of that also gave me confidence too, to say I can be a lead. And so when I walked into that room, I just took the part. I didn't audition for it. It was just like, it's mine.
That's great.
It's feeling. I don't know. It's not to be cocky, but you know, when you walk with the confidence that it's yours, then it shows. I think.
Yeah. Well, if you can't even verbalize this
big competition, like waiting room, I was like, okay, it's gonna be tough, and it was. The auditions took actually longer than they were supposed to because they couldn't, decide. But eventually, it happened.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that if you're too afraid to even tell someone that, then like you're going to be too afraid to even audition for it. Even if you do physically go to the audition, like if you can't even tell someone that that's what you want to do, then it's like you haven't even fully given yourself permission yet to do it. And so you're just not going to have a successful audition. And I do remember talking about this because, for better or worse, it's not even on purpose, but when someone comes into you and they audition for you as an ensemble member, you start to just put it in your head. Okay, so the next time I'm doing a show and that person comes in like, oh yeah, they were so great in the ensemble. Like it's not like you're trying to keep them in the ensemble. It's just like you start to think about how you know them. And so you just keep the relationship going on how you know them. And so sometimes it literally is just saying like, I am interested in doing these other things, for them to go, oh yeah, well, I didn't even think about you for that. Like, yeah, you should totally come in for this. And it's not even like, it's just kind of human nature. We start to box people into these categories, and not that we're trying to, but it's just however you interact with that person is how you kind of think of that person.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for anyone listening to this, that's, you have to actually claim it for yourself and let people know you want to do these things. Because that alone could be the switch. Once people know that you want to do that. So that's great.
And don't be afraid to talk to people. But it might sound scary. Like, go talk to the producer. I mean, I was lucky enough to like know them, and like I have this kind of relationship where I can go and say, "Can we go for a coffee?" But even if it's a choreographer, a director that you work with, don't be afraid to say hi or ask for advice. Even just asking like, "What can I do to start being considered for leading roles or characters rather than in the ensemble?"
Or even just saying hi, like you said. I mean, so many people don't even do that step, and you can't build a relationship if you don't even say hello. Like that's literally the ground. Yeah, start with that and then build from there for sure. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share? I mean, this was so helpful, I think, for people to hear all of this and hear your story. Is there anything else you want to share that you think would be helpful for people?
Not at the top of my mind. I think we covered everything. If anybody has a question, they can send me a message on Instagram and I will most likely reply.
Yeah. So where do you want people to follow you? Instagram, that's the best place to get a hold of you?
Instagram is the main one that I use. I also have Threads. I don't check it as often.
Yeah,
but Instagram is the one, my main social media. It's my name, Javier Manente.
Yeah. Yep. I'll put the links to that in your voice studio and everything in the show notes as well, so people can connect with you that way. But thank you again for being here. And I really appreciate all this and sharing all this. I think it's going to be really inspiring for people. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Good. I'll see you later.
Bye.
All right, friends. Lots of interesting things there, right? I love how clearly he demonstrates what's possible when you really know yourself as an artist, why you're doing it, and what you bring. When you are clear on that, other people can feel clear on it too, and that's when the jobs come in. He's also such a great example of what happens when you do the work. And doing the work could be as simple as just saying hi to someone, as you heard, or just letting people know what you want to do, or carving out an hour to work on your career, because you really do need to do the work if you want to see the results. And if what you're doing hasn't worked, why do you keep doing it? You have to change what you're doing if you want to change your results. So that may mean trying new teachers or really evaluating yourself and seeing if you are actually doing what your teachers are suggesting, or what the people that you admire are suggesting, or your mentors are suggesting. And like I said to Javier, the reason why Amplified Artists works isn't because of me or what I personally think. It's because it's all based on what actually works, what gets results. I've been a teacher for nearly 20 years now, and so I see the things that get people the results and the things that don't. So we just want to focus on the things that get you the results. Or like I said at the top of this episode with the Dream Career Blueprint, that is based on the advice of industry experts. It's the unanimous things that I've heard people say time and time again in the people that they look for when they are casting the show or putting a creative team together. So I've just compiled that for you, but you also have to do the work. So if you want to join Amplified Artists or learn more about it, you can go to amplifiedartist.life, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And you can get your free Dream Career Blueprint by going to the link in the show notes as well. But the important thing is you don't keep repeating your behaviors and actions and expect different results. So change it up, do the work, take inspiration from Javier, and you will achieve your career goals and your dreams. So if you have any questions about this episode, you can leave me a note in the comments below this video. I respond to each one, or you can message me over on Instagram. I'm at Jim Cooney NYC. If you like this episode, hit the like button to help more people find out about it, and also subscribe and get notified so you don't miss any episodes. And finally, if you really love this show and want to help support it, leaving a small tip is greatly appreciated, and you can do so using the link in the show notes. Remember, there is no one on the planet who is just like you. Stay true to the gifts you have and who you are. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Here's a little preview of next week's episode. I will see you then. How much time and money have you spent on training your talent and skills? If all you needed to book your dream jobs was to be as talented as possible, and you've spent all this time and energy and money getting your skills up to that point, don't you think your career would be further along by now? I mean, I have to ask you, how is that working for you? When you leave a voice lesson, how much more advanced are your skills at that point? How much more guaranteed are you to book the jobs you want to book? Well, what if there were a way that you could much better guarantee this? What if instead of spending your time and energy and money on your talent and skills, you could spend it on the things that directly book you work and book it for you faster and easier?